Women. Women can make men happy, sad, or just flat out insane, and in today's episode we are most definitely covering the latter in this equation. We are talking about Mutsuo Toi, the average Japanese man, or more appropriately titled, the original Kantai destroyer. Mutsuo Toi was born March 5, 1917 to a fairly well-off family, but when he was but an infant his parents died of TB, leaving him and his sister in the hands of their grandmother. When his sister was married in 1934, Mutsuo became largely antisocial in their town of Kumo, Sayama, in the Okayama prefecture of Japan. During this time he was effectively what we would call a pre-alpha incel in his desire to get with women, or just outright hate their existence for not wanting to be with him. Mutsuo partook in rural traditions of yobai, also known as night crawling, which involved sneaking into women's rooms at night to gain sexual favors. In short, he was a part of a cancerous custom for sexual deviance right from the get-go. If you need a 21st century explanation of what any of that just meant, it means he partook in group snuggle struggles. Please YouTube, don't kill me for sidestepping on saying the actual fucking word. However, by 1937 Mutsuo was diagnosed with TB, and became ostracized from his fellow townsfolk, angered that his TB had been preventing him from feeling the touch of a woman, and that women in town openly made fun of him for now being a loner and having TB. With little time on his clock, as TB was incurable at the time, Mutsuo tried to hook up with multiple women, gaining the same disastrous results time and time again. Since 1936 he had been damn near infatuated with Sada Abe, a prostitute who killed her lover by castrating him with a surgical blade and asphyxiating him with a cloth for her pleasure. If this wasn't a warning sign enough something was off with this fucking guy, don't worry, we aren't done yet. Because in 1937 he made an investment in a Browning Auto 5 shotgun, a katana, and enough ammunition to take on a police force. In 1938, Mutsuo finally had enough of being denied a woman, and transitioned from greed into Roy Mustang with a flip of a switch. His plan was simple: sneak into the homes of all those who wronged or made fun of him, and murder them violently. To do this, he bought some flashlights, cleaned up his shotgun, sharpened his blade, that is, until local authorities confiscated his shotgun after a bout of depression they caught him in. However, they gave it back shortly after, feeling Mutsuo's mental health had rebounded. Spoiler alert, it didn't. And so, in the late night of May 20, 1938, Mutsuo cut the power to his town, put on a headband carrying 2 flashlights, armed up, and gathered over 200 rounds, a handful of throwing knives and a hatchet. His time had come. The first person to perish was his grandmother, who he claimed in a suicide note he killed to spare the shame of being the blood of a murderer, a strangely sympathetic motivation considering what comes next in the story. By 1:30 a.m. Mutsuo had finally made his way to the first target on his coming rampage, and what can best be described for the next hour and a half was 7 samurai, except nobody can fight back, and like the power of Otomo, Mutsuo had the power of gunpowder at his disposal. He would sneak into people's homes just as he would have if he was doing normal night crawling, except this time, instead of perverted approaches or accosting of women, he was simply introducing them to a 12-gauge birdshot or Nippon steel. His targets also involved lovers, or men in the town that too made fun of him, at least in his books, far too often. As dawn approached, Mutsuo went to the hills, facing a cliff face, pressed the shotgun against his chest and blew his inner ass to the next life. As sunrise came, the devastation left behind from the weirdo virgin was intense. Over 30 people were killed, and 3 wounded, from a town with a population of only 111 people. Most people left the town shortly after, and it remained a ghost town of sorts until 2015 when the Japanese government tore down the disrepaired town. Unfortunately, unlike Grashev, Mutsuo became something of a pop culture icon in Japan even into present day as some sort of symbol against social isolation, instead of being seen as a fucking mental case with some serious sexual deviations afoot. Like I get it, it's Japan and they've been a bit wonky for a while since Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but this is a bit retarded, don't you think? Like come on man, it'd be the equivalent of the United States making a shitty Netflix adaptation on how the Columbine kids saved the world from aliens or some shit. That about does it for Mutsuo Toi, an anti-social loser who decided to take his anger out on not getting laid in the most inhumane way possible, and in a fashion sense I can only attribute to a Dead by Daylight monster.